Namaste and hello. Welcome to SONAS, South Asia Nadi Sambad. SONAS aims to promote dialogue and sharing of perspectives among sectors, disciplines, geographic regions, and among generations about South Asian water challenges. We believe in wholeness of the hydrological cycle as a foundation to make rivers clean for people and freshwater biodiversity. Every week, we will present our water champions' written perspective and conversation on ideas towards sustainable water solutions. I am your host Ajay Dikshit. You can find us on Twitter at Nadi Sambad. These episodes will also be available in other podcast platforms. Please enjoy the conversation. Welcome and namaskar again. In today's episode, our guest is Dr. Shiraz Wazir of Gorakhpur Environmental Action Group, India. Dr. Shiraz will discuss the challenges posed by changed local ecology in North Ganga Plains and along the Nepal-India border. Ecologist Dr. Shiraz, informed by insights from his grounded engagements on flood risk mitigation, supporting local livelihoods, and building local resilience, presents a case for creating narratives that recognize local communities as major actors in balancing local ecology. Dr. Shiraz, how should we understand this new ecology?
Ajay bhai, first thing is that we are living in the Tarai belt of eastern Uttar Pradesh. And if you look at the whole belt right from, in the Indian context, we call it Trans-Saryu region, which is in the north of the Saryu River or the Ghagra River, 7 or 8 districts which are kind of very homogeneous in terms of population density, livelihood patterns, even poverty and the illness, diseases, and so on. This uniqueness actually, that is seen actually across the scale, across the whole of North Indian Tarai region. Some of the things actually which we see is that whole of our culture, our traditions, our food systems, our life actually, livelihoods, especially of the poor people and those who are below the economic levels, that is more or less dependent on water or water-related services. For the fisheries or aquaculture, or maybe the water which is for irrigation, or maybe the groundwater actually which is for various purposes, the surface water, and the whole range of ecosystem services which the water and water resources provide, like what rivers provide, what ponds and the lakes provide. And you will be surprised to know that in the region where we are living, in the Trans-Saryu region, almost 8% of the land is underwater. So it's a huge area actually. Almost 10% of the area is underwater. So of course, it has bearing on the livelihood and the life of the people there. And all the culture, the festivals and everything is around those water-related things. Even the songs are around those issues. Coming to the ecology of the water and the rivers, one is that our region, and I'm talking of the whole of Bihar and UP and even Uttarakhand, the Tarai belt of this whole range, even if you go to Assam and even Bengal, actually this is largely fed by smaller rivers. There's a number of smaller rivers actually which are flowing across different regions. And those smaller rivers actually played a very important role in terms of providing water, in terms of draining out the water from the area, reducing the flood impacts and the waterlogging, providing the irrigation water, providing the fisheries. Some of the best kind of fishes are from these smaller rivers. But these smaller rivers have been largely ignored, and that is why they are dying, and very fast dying. And we were observing that there is a large number of rivers actually which are not existing now. In the last 20 years or 25 years, they have just vanished. So one of the major factor is actually these smaller rivers which are going very fast. And the second is the water bodies. Because of the land pressure, because of the population density and people largely dependent on the primary production activities, agriculture-based activity. Agriculture demands land, and land fragmentation is very high. So in our region, land fragmentation is very large. And that actually created pressure on the water bodies. I mean, people tend to encroach on the water bodies, and then the water bodies are gradually going. And at the policy level, at the government level, at the community level, at all levels, actually, these water bodies have been the victims. In a way, the water holding capacity of any area or region is reducing, which is causing in form of floods or waterlogging. It is waterlogging in the cities or waterlogging in the rural areas that is increasing day by day, every year by year. Flooding, the impact of the flooding is also increasing, but at the same time, it is also impacting the food system. How the food of the people actually is shifting from aquaculture to land-based agriculture, and even land-based agriculture is being impacted because of the floods and waterlogging and so on. So, negative impact on the water resources, the water bodies, the smaller rivers, and so on. That is a major ecological shift which we have seen in our lives. And that is a big problem. It is becoming a little larger, but I think to cut short, the ecosystem services which were provided by these water bodies that have been largely impacted, and that has caused the problems for the people living in the area, especially, I'll say, primary production dependent or small and marginal farmers and small landholding farmers and the people who are living below poverty line.
So, Dr. Siraz, you did talk about the impact. So, what implication does it have for the region along the Indo-Nepal border?
So, one of the major point actually, Ajay bhai, which I would like to highlight is, I mean, the same traditional kind of confusion that a number of artificial mechanisms to manage these rivers or the water bodies were done in the last 50 years or 60 years in form of embankment, in form of canal irrigation and so on, basically for irrigation, for electricity generation and for flood management. But these have largely failed, and enough has been said on these issues. So I'm not going to highlight those issues. But one of the major thing is actually that the water availability in these rivers, which are flowing across the border of India and Nepal, that has reduced. Maybe the happenings or the situations which are in Nepal, or maybe because of the problems which are happening here in India. So that actually is one of the issue. And the second issue is also people tend to train and tame the rivers. And if you move around in the Kosi Basin, now every village is demanding an embankment. There should be an embankment around my village so that my village is safe. So that actually has created a huge problem, that how long are we going to create those embankments and what will happen with these embankments. The ecology of the river, which was at one point of time, has been broken into or fragmented into several ecologies because of these disruptions. Disruptions in form of embankments, disruptions in form of roads or narrowing down of the river so that bridge can be constructed, and so on. The last 4 or 5 years, we have seen that this Atal Setu has come in the Indo-Nepal part of Bihar. The Kosi River has been narrowed down to from 13 kilometers or 12 kilometers to 2 kilometers. So that, I mean, it's a huge siltation actually, which has started there. And the road is there, of course. I mean, the fast moving vehicles can run around. But what is happening to the ecology of the river? That the huge silt actually, you go to any village there, and you will find 8 to 10 feet of sand or silt, which is existing in all the villages. I mean, the villages are now, which were inundated by the water, actually are inundated by silt or sand. So nothing can be done. And then the problem is that in that silted area, no developmental work is allowed, no activities, welfare schemes are allowed. So ultimate sufferers are the local people, and that is a major problem. And the third point, which I would say in terms of ecology, is that these water bodies have been also impacted to a large extent. And the soil structure actually, which is hugely changed. Now the siltation is quite huge. And I met somebody actually who did voluntary labor at the time of this embankment construction during our first president, Rajendra Prasad, who inaugurated this Kosi embankment. And he was actually said that the way we have lost everything, how happy we were in 1953-54 when we voluntarily gave the labor to construction of these embankments. But what is happening to my land? Complete inundated, and he has no land at the moment. So all these things actually have created a lot of problem. The aquaculture has gone. And the new aquaculture in form of makhana, ural ferox, and those kind of things are coming, but not to that extent. And the seepage, I mean, you can go and see the seepage, the kind of seepage which, I mean, I mean, you are an expert in those areas. So the way seepage has created problem, especially for women farmers and the women, is huge. People are not marrying the people who are living inside the embankment. I mean, there's a very big social gap actually, which has also been created there because of these embankments in the seepage.
Dr. Shiraz, how do we begin to highlight these many challenges of changed ecology? What is it that we can do to kind of, highlight these emerging new ecological realities and then achieve a more balanced ecosystem that will ultimately help the community, help the people?
I think, Ajay bhai, you are, as I said earlier, also you are an expert and you have done a lot of work. And what we have observed that these rivers across the border of India and Nepal, they have been very well researched. I mean, a lot of research has been done. And politicians has also done a lot of public issues there, whether to construct embankment or constructing a bridge or so on. So largely these rivers have been seen from the eyes of scientists or experts or politicians. But these rivers have been seen from the eyes of the community who belong to these resources. So there is one need actually to see the river and the river ecology from the community perspective. And that is the need of the hour that, I mean, it is time to now understand how community feel and what they understand and how they react and what are their problems and how they look at the whole issue of river ecology. And in that context, actually, the second thing is that the public narrative, actually, I mean, the narrative which has been generated there over a period of time, over decades, is like, I mean, it is more harm to the river. Like embankment construction, everybody is demanding embankment construction. Everybody is asking now that the river should be narrowed down in 2 kilometers and the land will be free. So one has to see that this kind of public narrative actually is not growing and it should be stopped. And people should be properly informed. And so the role of the experts or the politicians at the moment is to have dialogue with the communities to get this narrative established that if the ecology of the river will go, whatever construction or whatever embankment or whatever bridge you make, it is not going to benefit you. So that is the second point. And the third point is from the political leadership, it is time to shift to community leadership. The local people actually, the master trainers, the champions at the local level, who understand the ecology in the right perspective and who can talk, who can position themselves, who can advocate their points, who can dealing with those kind of situation is something which is important. So that is something which is very important. And the second point is that one need to understand and do the comparative analysis of the ecosystem services which were provided by these rivers 40 years or 50 years back and what harm has been done now and how these ecosystems services can be revived along with the causes or the sources actually which provide these ecosystem services. So looking the river as one ecology and within this river ecology, what is the livelihood, what is the flood, what is irrigation, what is developmental activity and so on.
Thank you, Dr. Shiraz, for highlighting the existential challenges small and marginal farmers will face as the region's local waterscape is stressed. As global climate change affects the regional hydrology of the Himalaya-Ganga system, the impacts will cascade through the already stressed rivers and the new ecological entities. In the next episode, Dr. Venkatesh Datta of Lucknow University will discuss the concept of multi-level federalism in transboundary water management.
The leaders on both sides of the border, they do not have enough knowledge, competencies to support scientific policy decision. All the bilateral treaties, they are non-inclusive. I mean, they have failed to establish the basin-wide cooperation. There is no serious attempt to address the issue of equitable water use or equitable water allocation. There is always this blame game going on, or what I call the big brother and small brother syndrome. Each country has different unique water quality and pollution laws, conflicting interest of the upstream and downstream riparian communities. Even every segment of the river is different. Yeah. So what you see, the left and the right bank, they are just like two hands. They look similar, but they perform different functions. So a river does three important things. First, it collects sediments and nutrients from the catchments, and it transports them to great distances and deposits them when its energy becomes less in the plains. The entire Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna basin that you see, called the Bengal Fan, the Greater Delta, it is work of the rivers. So the Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna systems, they have the largest sediment load in the world.
I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. We warmly welcome your suggestions for improving SONAS and our conversation. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have enjoyed the conversation. Till then, have a happy week and Jai Hos.